set up a home for her to rent. They were able to get a job for her, got her a car, and all kinds of things, to stabilize our family. But even though they tried to physically stabilize our family, do you think the home was stable? Not at all, because that continued within the home. And by age 9, she ended up marrying a man out of prison. And this man was a heroin addict. And that just changed everything. And so for the longest time, I just remember feeling very alone. I was an only child. There were many times I was left at a park while they were doing drugs in the car. And just so you know, my kids, they know my story, so it's okay. Very honest with them about things. But I was very much alone at parks, and there was other moments too where it was really crazy. My mother would be shoplifting, and I would have to watch to make sure that nobody was coming so that she can, get the money that she needed for her substance abuse. But just many moments of feeling alone and a lot of emotional neglect that eventually led to physical violence, because my mother was not a happy drunk. She was a very angry drunk. And a lot of the things that she was hiding would come out when she would drink. And so over time, this pain, it started to create a limiting belief. Have you ever heard of limiting beliefs? It's that inner voice that tells you what you're not. I'm not enough. I'm not valuable. I don't matter. I can't do this. It's limiting, right? And a lot of these inner critics or inner stories that we have here are from things that happened from our past. And so for me, my 3 major was what I just said, that I'm not enough, I do not matter, and I don't belong. I carry that all the way until adulthood. But even though I carry that, in all the recovery that I've done, I have to say that was one of the most hardest things for me to rid, and something I still deal with today. But with Jesus, his truth makes all that be covered, because we have the ability to reframe. So let me see. So those are my grandparents. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. This is Tina. Do you see a difference? I hope so. This is me when I was in high school, and that's my mother there. Over time, because of the experience, come in, it's okay. Yes. Somebody's here. Over time, because of the experiences that I was having with my mother, I got to the place where I had enough, and I ended up running away. And I was out on the streets for a while, from stranger to stranger, or from friend to friend, family to family, then stranger to stranger. And this went on for a while until I decided to come back home. But when I came home, guess what? My mother wasn't having it. She was done. Even though I was done for all that had happened and transpired in our life, she was done. And my mother pretty much gave me up at the age of 15, I believe it was, and I became ward of the court. And I ended up in foster care. But before foster care happened, I had to go to a group home. And it's kind of crazy, but you would think I'm now in a safe environment. I'm in a place where there's order, there's security, there's people that care. But when you're used to chaos, all of that is scary. Like, what is this? I didn't want to be in this secure place. And as chaotic as it was at home, that was comfortable for me, right? So I got to the place where I was like, I had enough of this place too. And I ended up AWOLing, and I left the group home. But this is where now, hindsight, you see God's hand. You see God's hand all through, and I'm going to share some of that. But the powerful thing that God does, even in the ugly chapters of our lives, he is not afraid of how ugly that chapter gets. He's in it, and he's working in our behalf. And when I left that group home, all I had on my back, what really was the shoes and the clothes I had. That was it. That's all I had. And so I went to a payphone. There was payphones back then. I'm only 44. But I went to the payphone to try to call my friends, and I could not call anybody. I didn't have any money. I didn't have the numbers in my in my head. And so I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was living in the south side of Sacramento, but I was now in the west side of Sacramento, confused. Hi, good to see you. So there I was, wondering where was I going to go, scared out of my mind. And guess what ends up happening? This not truck, but this white van pulls up, and I know that sounds scary, but a white van pulls up and says, "Tina, do you need help?" It was an old friend of my mother's. I hadn't seen this friend in years, but this man, right at this moment, recognized me. And he recognized I needed help. And I said, yeah, I need to get to the south side. I didn't tell him, I don't think, that I AWOL'd the place. But he took me, gave me $20, and took me to a safe place. And it was just one thing that I can look back on to say, you know what? God was in it. God was in it. Even when I didn't know him, even though when I had no care in life and had anger even toward him for all that I had passed through, he was still working on my behalf. And I ended up continuing in my journey, going from place to place, sleeping outside only one night. I'm very grateful for that. But I ended up in this home that I really do believe that I was being groomed to be trafficked. I was in Meadowview, Sacramento, California, and all I knew is that I had to get out of there. That's all I knew. And I was up all night, couldn't sleep, trying to see if I can get a hold of somebody to come get me. Wasn't able to get a hold of anybody, but somehow I was able to get out of that house. Once again, there I was at the corner of Meadowview. I had not slept all night. Substance abuse was in the life. About to have a nervous breakdown. And what do you think happened then? No white van this time. I was about to lose it at this moment. But then something had told me, remember, your friend lives not too far from here. But I didn't know where. Right at that moment, that friend showed up. Right at that moment. And she saw how disheveled I was, and she picked me up, took me to her house, cleaned me up, all of that. And she took me over to her brother's home, and this brother had to go to work. And so he's like, listen, I don't need my parents to know that you're here because I was underage. He was older. And he's like, I need you to stay in my closet until I get back from work. Okay, I had nowhere else to go, right? So if you can go to the next slide. This is the family whose house I was at. And there I was in the closet, about to have a nervous breakdown, trying my hardest to keep myself together. And I didn't know where I was going to go, what was going to happen from here. But the father came home. And the father didn't know nobody was in that house. And I was quiet as could be. But that father kept going back and forth by the room where I was at. I know an angel, the Holy Spirit told him somebody's in this house. And he was walking back and forth, and then he just stood there right at the door. And I was scared out of my mind. I was like, please don't open this door. And he walked in, And he went to the closet and he opened the door. And as soon as he did that, all I could do was just bawl. I just bawled my eyes out. And all he said to me was, "Are you going to be here until you're 18 years old?" I was like, "But I don't know where else to go." I'm just going crazy. And he said, "Promise me that you will stay the night, and promise me that you will go back to the group home tomorrow if I take you." And I was like, "Okay." And so when his wife got home, this is Alice, when his wife got home, she said, "Tina," she's like, "I believe at this point, the only one you have to turn to is God. And just give him a try. Just give him a try." And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I said, okay. And I ended up going back to the group home. But if you AWOL from a group home after so many days, you end up losing your bed. Another kid gets your bed. Well, there was no more room. Guess what happened next? I had to go to a foster home. Guess what kind of foster home I went to? A Seventh-day Adventist foster home. And so if you can go to the next slide, because I can't see over here. So this is my foster family, the Richardsons. Their son actually went to Oakwood, their youngest son, who's not up here. But I had to go to church, y'all. I had to go to church every Sabbath, every Wednesday night, AY. Oh my gosh, it was rough. For somebody from the street that had no God-centered life, like that was hard, right? Had to go to church. But it's what saved my life. And over time, this is what I want to hone in on. Over time, you saw the picture before, hard exterior, dark lips, black eyeliner, ratted hair, tried to look like a Latina back then. But it didn't matter. The church family there, they rallied together and they poured love into me. And the group leaders, they really took time with me. And I got to be involved in programs. Even though I was an Adventist, like I was teaching about the sanctuary, I was up front, doing things and just involved, and people took me to their homes and had fellowship dinners and let me hang out with their kids, and it changed my life. And in 1999, if you can go to the next one. Actually, these are the two, I have to share this. These are the two families that really took time with me. The couple, they were like my spiritual parents. They pretty much took me under their wing, really guided me, always took me to their house. And the young man, Dominique Johnson, this brother, it didn't matter how I was looking. He was so faithful every time to come and just check in on me. How are you? What's going on? You got anything you want to share today? And he would just sit and let me just regurgitate and just let it out. Whatever it was I needed to let out. He wouldn't say a thing. And he told me later, he thought a whole lot of stuff in his mind, like I probably shouldn't be listening to some of this stuff. But he just listened. And what happened was, one night, he was really good friends with my foster brother. He stayed the night. And the next morning, after sharing all my story with him, like a lot deeper than what I'm doing now, the next morning, he looked me dead in my eye and he said, "God's calling you. He's calling you." And all I could do is cry, and I felt it in my spirit that Jesus was calling me when he said that. And he said, "Would you mind if we had prayer together?" And he led me to Christ. And it was shortly thereafter that things really started rolling. If you can go to the next slide. So in my transcripts alone, you could see my story. You saw an A and B student go into D's and F's, to me getting kicked out of getting kicked out of my junior year. And then when I went to this foster family's home, and the changes that I was having, going to church and just mingling with secure and safe families, all of a sudden now I'm having A's and B's again, and to the point where I was able to graduate, and not just graduate, but I was kind of like valedictorian, kind of. I got to speak at my graduation, and it was just absolutely phenomenal what God did. And in 1999, there was an evangelist that came and did a full-on tent meeting where I was baptized. And if you can go to the next slide. And I became a Bible worker. I started call portering. And then I became a missionary, and I went overseas as well. You can go to the next slide. So here I am, serving Jesus, giving my all, my 1,000% to God, committed, okay? All of my 20s, that's all I did. I worked in self-supporting places and went all over the place, doing all kinds of stuff, medical missionary work training and so on and so forth. And then I get married. Found a beautiful husband, good man, had beautiful kids. All of a sudden, all that stuff that I told you about, it started manifesting. And let me tell you, it got ugly. It got ugly. Thankfully, we were able to work through it before my son was old enough to really see and notice. But it got rough. A lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of struggle. There was many times in my marriage at the very beginning, I wanted to leave the church. I didn't want to leave God. I just wanted to leave the church. I wanted to give up on life, because the pain was too drastic. But you know what? I was doing all the things. I was getting up, having my morning worship, right? I was working for Jesus. My husband and I, we pastored a church in Arkansas. I was doing all the things, but inside I had a whole lot of pain that I was carrying. And this is what started my journey in really trying to figure out, how can I, as a Christian, still be dealing with all this stuff, right? Because isn't Jesus supposed to make it all go away? He does. He makes it all go away, but he uses tools and resources, clinical help, right? Coaches, safe communities to help one process pain. And so if you can go to the next slide. I started to do my own research, and I started to study. And this is what I want to bring to you all, is that it is not enough just to depend on our spirituality. We must research when it comes to emotional pain on what we can do with spirituality to heal the pain that we might be carrying. And I started to read books like Why Am I Like This by Kobe Campbell. It's one of the best books that you can grab hold of on understanding trauma at a very basic level. She's a trauma therapist, but trauma specialist specifically. But what I love about her, she's Christ-centered, and she really helps you to see the angst that you might be carrying concerning God, if you've had a past like mine, because you do have to reconcile as a Christian. Why would you allow me to go through all this stuff? And it took a while to go through the process with Jesus himself. It took me a while, but I got there. I was able to work through all that stuff and be able to see him as a safe God. And so the other book was What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry. Now I'm going to be sharing just a few more things, and then we'll be closing up. Dr. Bruce Perry talks about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and how trauma actually affects us as adults when it comes to disease. It has a huge part to play. And so he talks a lot about, it's not about what's wrong with you, it's about what happened to you, right? The other book was Make Sense of Your Story by Adam Young. I love story work. In the clinical world, it's called narrative therapy, but Dr. Allender, he has a center in California, and what he did was merge psychology and theology. And he helps you to see your story in God's greater story. So as you read scripture, you're not just looking at the pain that you've been through, but you see God weaving all through it, right? So that you can receive the healing that you need. The other one was Free and Fully Alive. Absolutely powerful book on teaching you how to bring your wounds to Jesus. The reason why I bring this out is because this is my favorite saying. Yes. Kobe Campbell, and for Free and Fully Alive is Katie Garcia. The saying that I always tell people is that what you don't know, you can't process. And what you don't process, you can't heal. And in order to know, you got to educate yourself, right? So it's very important to be able to get educated. Another favorite saying of mine, both my husband and I, we travel, and now we work together in this arena. Those that know Chef Chu know he does food. Well, when we go places, he doesn't just talk about food. But now when I come along, we talk about not only metabolizing food, but we also need to learn how to metabolize pain, because both are necessary. When it comes to not metabolizing food, what do you think happens if your food does not digest properly? It rots in your gut, right? In your digestive system. What happens then? What do you think starts happening to your body? Toxic inside. It's the same thing. If you have unprocessed pain, it's the same thing. Unprocessed pain affects us emotionally because pain actually gets stuck in our nervous system, and we can get stuck in what's called a survival state. You've heard of the fight, flight, and freeze response that the sympathetic nervous system activates. Well, when you have unprocessed pain, that's something that is consistent internally, and it actually conditions your body for possible disease. Because when you're in the sympathetic nervous system state, you also have hormonal things going on. And the hormonal things are excretion of cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. And if you have large amounts of that through continual toxic stress and unprocessed pain, it actually suppresses your immune system, and it sets the stage for disease. And this is where we're going to go next with ACEs. I don't want to, because I know y'all been here for a long time. So if you can go to the next slide. Let's pass that. Keep going, keep going. Okay. So adverse childhood experiences. Let me just go quickly with this. So Dr. Folletti, he had a clinic, and he had this clinic with Kaiser Permanente. He is, if I can get this right, he was the founder and chief of Department of Preventative Medicine in Kaiser. And what he did was he had a clinic for those that were seeking to lose weight. And he was actually very successful. There was a lot of individuals that were losing weight. But guess what happened? The individuals that were losing weight were leaving the program. And he was wondering why. You know, there's success happening. Why are you leaving? Come to find out that as he did more research, when he worked with his clients, he found out that the majority of everybody that had stepped away from the program actually had emotional trauma. And the loss of weight was causing vulnerability, and it was scary to them. And so he then decided to unite with another doctor, Dr. Robert Anda, I believe it is, from the CDC, and they created a study called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And basically, ACEs is a group of questions, just 10, right? 10 questions that talk about the mental wellness of your parents, divorce, incarceration, and so forth. And depending on how many boxes you checked would depend on the chances of possible disease and later on in your life. And so I know Linda's holding on to some ACEs sheets. You can pass those out. You don't have to take this right now. You can do this in your own time. But this is just something that you can go through on your own and to see what's your score. I wanted to go over just a few. If you can go to the next slide. I wanted to go over a few of the statistics here. So 67% of adults had at least one ACE. 67, that's over half, right? 1 in 8 had 4 or more ACEs. And for those that had 4 or more ACEs, they had 3.9 times more of the chance of getting chronic lung disease, 2.2 times more of getting heart disease, 2.4 times more of getting a stroke, 1.6 more times of getting diabetes, 4.6 more of getting depression, and 12 times more of suicide attempts. That's really high. And for those adults that had 6 or more ACEs, had the risk of 2 times more getting cancer. And this is where I come in. You see that number up there? What's my ACE score? 9 out of 10. It was a whole lot. And when I found out about this, I knew I had to do some more research. So if you can go to the next slide, I have some more books for you. The main 2 books, well, 3, that I want you to focus on are The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Van Kolk. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard of this book. Powerful. I'm going to be honest, it's a hard read. Okay, I haven't even finished reading the whole thing. It's a hard read because it's very scientific, but if you just read portions at a time, you'll get some insight on how unprocessed pain actually shows up in the body. Because remember I talked about how your story matters? Why does it matter? Because your body holds your story. Your story is not just here. It's here, right? We are multi-dimensional human beings, right? It's not that our bodies and minds are connected. This is one. And so what affects this affects this. What affects this affects this, right? So The Body Keeps the Score, wonderful book to read. But the other one, When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate. Very powerful book. I actually have it with me. Book. In chapter 7, it's fully dedicated to showing you how unprocessed pain and emotional trauma actually contributes to breast cancer. And this doctor, he found that there's a theme in all of his breast cancer patients. There was a theme for the women specifically. The theme was that we suppress anger, we suppress distress of any kind. The other thing that there was a theme in these women that had breast cancer, they were people pleasers. They didn't know how to say no. They lacked boundaries. And all of this is emotional, right? All of this is emotional. And so very powerful book to read. Another amazing doctor. I love listening to this man. But the other book is The Body Revelation. The only reason why I'm mentioning this book, it's Christ-centered book. It's not like all scientific. It's a Christ-centered book. But what Alicia Keaton does is she teaches you how to return back to your body. For us as Adventists, we know all about the laws of health, right? But I'm gonna be honest with you. The laws of health and the health message can often become a checklist for us, okay? It can often become a do's and don'ts and all this, and there's war within the church of what's healthy, what's not healthy, and all. It's a mess sometimes. My experience. And it was this book that actually helped me to look at the health message and the laws of health in a total different light. Because coming back to your body and being able to see that it's not about check boxing, I don't drink water because this is what I just have to do, right? I drink water because I am worthy to be taken care of. I deserve to be taken care of. And it's a whole nother mindset when you come at it that way. That it's not about me having to eat this way or I have to, go to sleep on a proper time. No, it's because I deserve that. I deserve to be well. And so what Alicia Keaton does, she not only helps you to return to your body, but you can listen to audio while you're walking for 20 minutes, and you get to process pain with her. Really cool book. If we can go to the next slide. I am almost done, y'all, almost done. All right. 2 years ago is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, specifically stage 2 ductal carcinoma. And October 17th will be 2 years since my unilateral mastectomy. I'll be honest, initially, when I was diagnosed with my breast cancer, I had a lot of shame about it. As a health educator, one that has a husband that everybody knows, that goes all over the place, it's like, no, I can't let nobody know I got breast cancer. But my friend said this one thing to me. She said, Tina, even if you followed all the things, even though if you might have got all the emotional wellness that you needed to heal from all your pain, and you still got breast cancer, what would you say then? And it was that statement that made me just mentally just turn around. And I was like, okay, so where do I go from here? And I decided, instead of being devastated, instead of falling in depression, I took it as an opportunity. I took it with all the stuff I had been reading, all the stuff I'd been learning, not only the stuff that I knew as a medical missionary, right? But now all the stuff I learned about trauma, I was like, okay, God, I'm returning to everything that I know. And so if you can go to the next slide, these are the things that I ended up doing. When I share my story concerning breast cancer, I don't ever tell somebody that one way is better than the next. Okay, y'all? Everybody has their own journey. I chose natural. I believe that God led me to choose natural. The hospital that Kaiser Permanente, we don't have any here. It was 3.5 hours away from my house. And even if I chose radiation and chemo, there was just I couldn't do it. My husband was traveling back and forth to California. It was a really tough time, and I couldn't leave my kids. And so my mother-in-law had to come to take care of my children while I healed myself. And let me tell you what's so beautiful about the story of us moving here with all of this. We were living in the inner city in Vallejo, California, where our factory was. And we were opening up a restaurant. And right in the middle of all of it, God said, it's time for you guys to go. And we were just like, hold up, we just opened up a restaurant. What do you mean it's time for us to go? It's time for y'all to go. And I can't go into all that story right now, but the ball started rolling really fast. And we found this home, and we made the move. And in the middle of the move is when I got diagnosed. And so now I could say, God opened up the door, because it was being out in the country, out of the inner city, out of the life of hustle, bustle, and all of that in California, the rat race. Like, it was the quietude that God gave me in mercy. He gave me. It's a miracle, to be honest with you, how we even got the house. But what I ended up doing, more than just the juicing, more than just the sprouting, more than eating all the greens in the world and the garlic and taking all the tinctures and all of that, was the emotional pain that I took time with God to heal. I took time to really mend the broken relationships that I had in my life. I had to look forgiveness dead in the face. Like, I had to. I knew that even though I did all the things, if I didn't heal internally, this was going to continue to grow. And in the process of juicing, of going for 3-mile walks every day, of drinking lots of water, and taking different supplements and doing what's that not saunas, but I forgot what it's called. Infrared. Yes, I had bought an infrared blanket. I was doing all the things. After getting my mastectomy, they had told me the cancer's gone. And so I just went up for my checkup a few months ago, and they said, you don't have to come back for another year. So I'm very grateful what God did. But because of this, it is what has opened up my heart and mind now to want to tell others. We cannot just focus, when it comes to the health message, we can't just focus on physical well-being. We must also couple physical well-being with internal well-being. Both are necessary, and that is the reason why I have this name. If you can go to the next slide, Layer by Layer Wellness. Layer by layer is the emotional work that we must do of peeling back. One more, sorry. Yes. Layer by layer is the emotional peeling back of our pain, really facing our stories, stepping into the past for just moments, not to stay stuck there, just to get wisdom, just to get insight, just to get awareness, to unpack things. And wellness is the self-care moments of being able to reinvest in yourself by allowing the laws of health to come alive and well, in your life. All of this coupling together so that you can receive the wholeness that you need. And that's why I started this program for myself. Like, I want to help others, experience what God did for me. I know that healing and wholeness is possible. And I feel very much as Christians that when it comes to pain, at times we don't always have the right tools to know how to heal that. And so, I'm an advocate now. I want to advocate for healing and processing the wounds that we have, because if you're on this side of Eden, we all got something, right? Sin is ruthless and has caused a whole lot of havoc in our lives, but God wants to heal all of it, and he's big enough to heal all of it. And so what I want to do next time I'm here, I actually want to talk about trauma. What it is, what does it look like, how does it show up, and what can we do to process that pain, if that is a part of your life or if that's something that you can do for someone else. Yeah. Any questions? I know that was a whole lot. So yes, so I do, I am a certified trauma recovery coach. So I do one-on-one time as well, online. My services are online. I'm working up to a group. I would love to do something like that. Okay. But that is something, though, that's on the radar. Like, I have a client right now where we're going to do a 6-month journey through a book called To Be Told. And I want to do this so that I could one day be able to do this for a group of people. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, but that is available. You can give me a call. Yes. Yeah, that was a journey. So let me be honest with you. Coming out of foster care, I did not have, I aged out of foster care system. I went after that family that I showed you on the screen. I ended up going back home with my mom. And we were able to restore our relationship, by the way, before she passed away in 2003. But because I didn't have the support at the time, I did not go forward with an education. I didn't have people behind me saying, hey, in 5 to 10 years, and I'm gonna be 100% honest, I'm okay, I hope I can say this. But I got caught up in a particular ultra conservative environment where the mindset was we don't have time for school and it's all about preparing for Jesus' return only. And so I gave all my 20s to mission work. And then I got married. And then I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? So I have to share that part so you can understand why I went the route that I did. And in that process, I said, okay, Jesus, like, I can't imagine doing school right now with my children, with my husband, like too much going on financially. I was like, but I know that I want to help other women. And so how can I go down this route without being a clinical therapist? And then he started guiding me to these different programs, and coaching became a thing, and I learned about trauma and actually trauma recovery and how to do peer-to-peer support work. And I was like, okay, so that's the direction that I went. And you know what? Going back to school and possibly becoming a therapist, that's still on the table. Like, it's still my heart. It's still there. I just don't see it. It's a huge mountain. But one day we'll see. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, yes.
Do you talk a little bit more about actually taking the journey? You talk about going through the journey of getting to know yourself better, getting to work through the pain. Could you talk a little bit more about the journey and the supports that um, might want to put in place to make sure that you have the right environment or the right support?
Yeah. I don't know if you could remember that through this hour I kept saying safe community, safe community, safe community, safe God, safe, safe. As survivors, that is the huge, like that's the biggest thing for us is safety. And even though we're in a Christian environment, you can't open up to everybody, right? You can't. You wish it could be a safe enough environment where you would be able to do that, But it's very important that whoever it is you reach out to, that they are a safe, non-judgmental, loving, accepting individual or clinician or coach that can guide you through that process. Very important. We can't do this alone. I did the journey for a while alone through reading, but eventually I had to reach out because once you start processing and stuff starts coming up, you can get very dysregulated, and you need to be able to have that safe support that's there to guide you through that, because there is what they call re-traumatizing, re-triggering, and so it's really important to find that safe community. And for me, I'm really grateful that the environment that I went in through getting my certification, I had mentors that really took care of who I was as a person, and they took me under their wing, and they actually provided free services for me. They didn't have to do that. That was God that did that for me. But God will open up those doors for you. If you don't have the resources, like, God will open up doors for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it. All right. Well, let's have prayer together. Yeah. Huh? Oh, yeah. I did a little bit. Go ahead.
So part 2 is the first Saturday of November, and we'll be in this same location. Please share with others. And Tina already said we're going to look even more into how it shows up and all of that. And so I encourage you, it doesn't matter what age, well, try to have
Yes.
18 and older.
Yes.
But please invite others so that they can get the information. Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
It's in there. So the last page is the survey, but the other 4 pages actually tell you about some of the information that Tina brought to you about the origins and all that. But then it actually tells you about the scoring. And you'll see where, as in presentation, where she said if you had 4 or more, the research showed that there was most likely that there was going to be some other result
Yes.
that might come about.
And I do want to say, too, Sister Linda is also a coach. She's a fellow coach for emotional wellness. Just, you have someone in your church. Yes. Yes.
Partially. When we started, we had a hiccup, and then we had to end it, and then we had to start it again. So it'll be partial. We'll see if we can patch it together, but it'll be partial.
Yes. Yes, the first Sabbath of November. Yes, sorry. A list of books? I can have that. Actually, I'll give it to you, and she can print it out. Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to add a couple more in there too that are really good books. I will tell you, some of it is God-centered Christian books. Others are more scientific, but both are needed. You got to be able to have an understanding on both sides of the coin. Yeah. So, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Right now, the only thing we had planned was November.
That's
But
a good question.
actually, the second thing we had planned was that you would actually start journaling that journey so that
We did talk
you
about
get a chance to see what is showing up. I'll say this.
Yeah.
Sometimes when stuff is going on and we keep it here, then it kind of like loses its focus. So we never really go back and question, like, okay, when that happened, why did I get so angry at her? And we don't realize that we got angry because it triggered something. But sometimes it's like they talk about it in different spheres where you're extra stressed. And so by the time you're finished, you have eaten the whole pack of cookies, the whole cake, the whole tub of ice cream, even what is considered the good stuff. You might have gotten a salad, and it was intended.
We're not going to eat a whole lot of that.
We're not going to eat a whole lot of salad, but usually it is something sweet or salty or extremely fatty or something like that. There's a reason why it's called comfort food, and that might be covered more in like one of the scientific books as well. And I think Sister Watson brought it up one time about the dopamine and all that good stuff. But yeah, so that you can look at how it is showing up, and then by the time that Tina comes again in November, you would have started to see glimpses. So when she's giving information, you would have a glimpse of how some things are showing up, and then you will be able to go deeper there as well. But you can also use this time to start putting your support network in place so that you are starting your journey not in November, but you're starting your journey now.
And you just reminded me, one moment. Can you go back to the slide before this one? Yes. You just reminded me. I created a 5-day devotional workbook, and it is a reflective workbook. If you go to my landing page, you can get it there. And what it basically is, it's starting you on the journey what I wanted to do, I wanted others to see the safe God that I've come to know. And so I have some trauma-informed Bible stories in it. And I also have some trauma language there so that you can get familiar with it. I also have reflective questions, things that you can work through. And part of it is my story, more of my story in there as well. So if you're interested, it's a resource that you can start out with. It's just a five day. But if you just go to my landing page, you can get it there. It's like, well, I don't want to talk about prices right now, but it's simple. Okay, let me go back. Can we go back to, let's see, keep going, I'll let you know when. Okay, right, go, there. So, so here it was saying that 1 in 8 had 4 or more ACEs, and those that have 4 or more ACEs have a higher chance of getting these particular diseases. Let me say this. This does not mean that you're going to get these diseases, right? This just gives you awareness that those of us that have experienced a lot of emotional pain, that it can very well set the stage for these things in your life. And so knowing that and being aware of that, now you can start the process of healing those areas, and even ministering physically to these areas of your life. But it doesn't mean that this is what you're gonna get. This is only awareness. But now you got my mind rolling, because in doing this, you gotta have a what to do next, for sure. It changes. Correct.
I said, no, I was just saying that, like, say your score is not good, because it's not asking you 10 years ago or 20 years ago, so you're just answering overall. But say since that time of these events,
Correct.
you have gone
Already
through counseling or
healed
something, you
and
healed on
yes,
things, and
you change the trajectory.
okay.
Yeah, especially through epigenetics.
Yes, I didn't want
can
anybody to
turn.
be discouraged if they've been working real hard and then
Thank you, dear. I appreciate you sharing that. No, I love that, because now I got to put that in here too, because you're right. It doesn't matter how high the score is. If you have been working towards healing, you change the trajectory of whatever these scores might be. You are correct. You are correct. Yes.
Three-mile walking and the eating and the juicing. Are you continuing to do those?
Not to the extent that I was, but because regimen can be really tough, right? Extreme regimen can be really tough. But yes, what I tell people is that healing is a lifestyle. We know the word sanctification, right? Sanctification is a lifetime. I believe that healing is sanctification. That's what sanctification is. It's healing, and that's why it's a lifetime. You're never going to be finished, because Jesus is continuously healing you and cleansing you from sin and from hurt and from pain and everything that sin has caused, right, in our lives. And so it's a lifestyle. Yeah. And that's how I now look at the laws of health and our health message. I don't look at it, like I said before, like like I look at it as, oh, so this is a part of my recovery. Like, this is a part of my healing from my stuff, to physically be well, so that I don't allow the enemy to cause disease and all these other things, in my life. And so, but yes, healing is a lifestyle. Yeah. And I'm trying to do the things, not all the things, but the things. Yes. Yes.
So then it's important to at least start, even if you start little, but at least start the process going, so that you can, as you were speaking, you're growing in it.
Yes.
And also it affects your mind, your thoughts, because as you're working in it, you become more and more confident
Yes.
and encouraged to do more.
Yes. And I'm glad you said starting a little. when it comes to pain, it could be very overwhelming. Because if you got a whole lot of stuff to deal with, it could be like, I need to tackle this, I need to tackle this, I need to tackle that, you know. But in reality, your nervous system can't handle all that, right? A little bit at a time. That's why I say layer by layer. It's just whatever your capacity can hold, that's what you deal with, you know, one moment at a time. Yeah, we're good? All right, let's have prayer. I know you're trying to go home. I got you. Let's pray. Loving Father, thank you so much for being that faithful friend, that safe presence, safe God for us. Thank you that you do not leave us in the mess. Thank you that you open up opportunity after opportunity for us to heal, to recover, to be restored, for us to be reclaimed and fully redeemed. And I just pray you will continue to work in our lives. And whatever it is the scores are on these papers, Father, you are the one that has the pen, and you are the one that is finishing our story. The work that you have started is not done, but you said you're going to complete it at the day of your coming. And so I just pray you will continue to work in our lives. Help us, Father, to be co-partners with you, to heal whatever needs to be healed. And thank you, Father, for the Holy Spirit that knows how to utter things that we don't know how to utter, that knows how to intercede things that we cannot intercede. We appreciate your tender care and love for us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Thank you for having me.